welcome to this video series. I am super pleased that you're here. This is the Private Practice with Soul video series. And what you're going to receive over the next 3 days, so today's one of those 3 days, is some education around private practice. It doesn't matter if you are already on your private practice journey, or maybe you're looking at beginning a private practice, or maybe you're like me and you went through a career transition. You're all welcome to download these videos, and even if they don't make sense to you now, save them in your Dropbox or something like that, because they may make sense to you at a future point. I try and keep all of the videos really short for you because I absolutely appreciate how, you're all pressed for time. I respect that. So what we're going to do in today's video is just kind of set the scene. I'm going to talk about why you're here, what you're going to receive from the video series. I'll tell you a little bit about how I came to be doing this so that you understand sort of the context. Some of the common challenges that we experience in private practice, and I'll also walk you through some of the solutions. It's my highest intention to be able to provide you with really comprehensive information over this video series, because I want you to watch each video and by the end of the series come away from it more informed, more aware, more open, and able to create some changes so that you can have a few wins in the private practice over the next few weeks or even few months. I really want that for you. I really believe that sometimes just we get a little a bit stuck, and we just need somebody else to come and show us a fresh way of doing things, or even just to see our blind spots. Okay. So, as you know, if you're already in private practice, perhaps you went through a journey that looks something like this. And I absolutely appreciate the journey is different for everybody. But very generally speaking, we can say that it begins with contemplation. Usually what happens is, at some point we sort of finish our training in our profession, and then usually we will go and work for somebody else for a little while, because we have a belief that it's not okay for us to go and set up a private practice straight away, that we need to go and get a lot of experience first. We need to see how it's done out there first. And so what happens is, when we're working for somebody else, we build up a collection of experiences, and we have our own beliefs about, what therapy looks like or what private practice looks like. And at some point, there will be an experience usually of, this cognitive dissonance. Something starts to not feel right. Something starts to feel a little bit off. And then once that seed is planted, what ends up happening is we can't let it go, and that dissonance continues to expand, right? Because what we focus on expands. And so from that space, what usually happens is we start thinking about how we would do it differently. We start looking at what our experience has taught us in terms of what's really valuable and helpful. And we start to be more aware of how we could do things differently, or more impactfully, or in a way that's really going to resonate and connect with clients that we really, really, really want to be working with. And from that contemplation, we begin planning. And so maybe even before you leave your paid employment, if this is the path that you took, you're going to start thinking about, how do I actually go about setting up a private practice? What does that look like? And as a part of that planning, you'll probably do things like jump into Facebook groups and ask other people what they did. And I think it's really valuable to get some ideas of people's experience, but you need to remember as well that everybody's experience is just that. It's their experience. And what works for somebody might not necessarily work for you. But I think absolutely being open to listening about other people's journeys isn't going to hurt, if you can remember that, as I said, it's their story, not yours, and that your story could be completely different. Okay, so we're moving to the planning stage, and planning stage looks like, do I want to scale back from full-time work and just go 5 days, 4 days, 3 days, 2 days to allow me time to build up the private practice? what do I want my dominant therapeutic modality to be? Who do I really want to work with? Is it women, families, couples, children, everything? What kind of presenting problems do I really enjoy working with? Is it anxiety, depression, autism? And what type of modalities do I really like to work within? Is it trauma-informed therapy? Is it EMDR? Is it anxiety management? Is it CBT, mindfulness, ACT? You get the idea. So you start thinking, and it's this thinking that starts to pull together a little bit of a picture for you about what you want the private practice to look like. From there, you start to feel a little bit more confident now because you've got your plan and you think, all right, now it's just a matter of ticking off these boxes and then I'm going to have a private practice. So you start moving into your launch phase. So the launch phase is really exciting and it's all about let's get the logo. What colors am I going to have? Let's design the website. Let's do all of that sort of really fun stuff. And so that is really, really a fun part of the private practice journey, but it's also where a lot of us get stuck. And we'll talk about that more in a little while. And then the last stage is kind of always going on. We're like always in the last stage because it's where we're establishing and evolving. And I don't believe that that's finite. I mean, all you have to do is look at my journey and you've seen my practice has gone through so many up levels and changes over the years. And I think it's a problem if your practice doesn't, because you want to be evolving and responding and connecting. And as you learn, as private practice owners, as women in private practice, as you learn and as your awareness expands and as you grow, of course, your perspective and your approach to private practice is going to change as well. So establishing is really about putting down the foundations and the roots. And we do that with things not only like physical space and your marketing and your branding, but we also do that with things like your values and how you want to operate the business. And then that process of establishment can take anywhere from 6, 12, 2 years, 3 years. It's an ongoing process, as is the process of evolution. So this is very broadly the private practice journey. And as I said, I understand it might look a little bit different for some of you, but generally this is what it looks like. And then what happens is you say to yourself, hang on, this isn't what I expected. And have you had that feeling as well? I know when I first started in private practice as well, like I was thinking to myself, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to work less hours. I'm going to make money. I'm going to get to help people I really want to work with. I'm going to get to spend more time with my family and my friends. I'm going to go to yoga. I'm going to do all this cool stuff. It's going to be great. But it completely backfired. It wasn't anything like what I thought. And I had read the books on private practice and I'd done the courses on private practice and I was like, okay, it's going to be great. But it wasn't anything that I expected. And I know it hasn't been for many of you as well, because I've worked with many of you. So for those of you who don't know me, I just thought it might be worthwhile giving you a little bit of my background just quickly, because I know it's a bit boring, but I'll just sort of set the scene. So I've been in private practice for 25 years. I know it feels like such a long time, but for the most part, I've loved it. I started working as a counsellor and I was working for a nonprofit organisation and I really loved it so much. From there, of course, I got my qualifications. So I got a undergraduate, got my honours year, I got my master's in counselling, and then I got a PhD. I did my PhD in CBT. My CBT was a program for people who were long-term unemployed, and it was looking at a comparison around, were people who got pre-vocational training and CBT more likely to be able to get and sustain meaningful employment than people who didn't. And the outcome was, of course, they did. And then that program got picked up and it got run through a lot of, at the time they were called job network agencies, to try and help people who had complex mental health conditions gain and sustain meaningful work for them. It was like super successful. And, I was really proud of it at the time. I guess over the years and more recently, my experience of private practice changed because I guess I had my own little awakening a few years ago with some changes that were happening in my industry that I guess just weren't in alignment with where my values were. And I continued to work as a psychologist for a few years. And what happened was I had, during those 3 years, I connected back into, I guess, things like my soul purpose, spirituality. I wanted to connect again with my, I guess, my sense of self as a woman, my sense of higher consciousness, all of that sort of stuff, and manifesting, of course, and I was loving it. As a result of that, I started speaking about these things more publicly online on my social media. And then last year, I was invited to be on Sky News and also on Evertalk TV in Hollywood, sharing about manifesting in business and law of attraction in business and soul's purpose in business, and creating a private practice from that space. So, and Sky News was in London. So it was really a big year last year. I also wrote 2 best-selling books about manifesting, and I really, really loved it because to me, it felt good on a spiritual level, but it also felt good in terms of being safe because a lot of the approaches in manifesting and law of attraction are very similar to mindfulness, acceptance and commitment, therapy, positive psychology, of course, and even CBT. So it made a lot of sense for me to be able to draw upon the evidence-based stuff and link it in with this. And as a result of that, everything just kind of changed for me. And then it was actually this year that I retired from psychology. And because that dissonance that I was talking to you about before, that dissonance for me started to expand and grow. And then I just wanted to work from a space that felt right and aligned for me. And that meant moving into something where I had more freedom to be able to support my clients, i.e. you guys, in a way that felt more true to me and in a way that was more aligned with where my clients were as well. So I stepped out of psychology and I moved into spiritual life and business coaching. And I just love it. I haven't looked back. So one of the big challenges that I experienced in private practice too was that I just kind of started it and I didn't have any business training. I didn't have any business background at all. And I thought it was going to be fun and simple and easy, and it was just the opposite. What ended up happening was suddenly I had to market my business. Suddenly I had to generate referrals. Suddenly I had to do my books. Suddenly I had to do my own accounting and lodge BAS statements and prepare GST. I had to find clients. I had to go and do GP meet and greets. I had to build a website. You know what I mean? It was like all this stuff. And I had to do all my own admin as well. So while I went into it thinking this was going to be light and easy, breezy, fun, and I was going to have all this abundance of time, the opposite happened. And I found myself on this never-ending learning curve where I was constantly having to, see clients because I was bulk billing. So I had to see a high volume of clients, 5 or sometimes 6 days a week to pay the rent, keep the lights on and all of that sort of stuff. But I was also, outside of that, I was having to watch the webinars, buy the courses, learn how to do all of this sort of stuff. And it was really just such long hours. It was totally the opposite to what I wanted for myself. What I realized was that a lot of the strategies that I was using just weren't working. And I persisted. I just thought that there must be something wrong with me because I'd go in the Facebook groups and I'd see that all the other women were like crushing it. They were doing so well using all of the strategies. Therefore, it had to be something that was wrong with me, right? And so I would kick myself up, but really beat myself up over it. I think, well, there must be something that you're doing wrong. And so I'd try harder and I'd push harder. And anyway, but still some of those strategies did not work for me. And what I realized was that I wasn't alone in this. I realized that there were other people just like me who were using the strategies but not getting the results. And what developed out of there was I realized that in order for those strategies to be able to work for people in private practice, you needed to do the inner work first. So my approach is really around supporting women to align the practice back again with their original purpose, with their soul goals, so to speak. I know it sounds airy-fairy, but this stuff works. I believe that if you get the inner stuff sorted out, which I think is about 80% of your practice, however you want to define success in your private practice, whether success for you means income, time abundance, more time with family, working less, it doesn't matter how you define success. What's going to happen is you need to get that inner stuff right first. That's your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, and bringing the practice into alignment with that is, that strategy is just 10, maybe 20%. And I know this because I've been coaching women in private practice for 3 years now, and nearly every single one of them comes with the same thing. They've been coached by somebody else in private practice, or they've gone and done the courses, and they say to me, it's not working. But here's the thing, it's not the strategy that's off, it's the woman's belief. And I'm saying women because I work with women. It's not that men don't think this. It's just this is my market, this is my niche. This is who I love working with. And a quick example of that is, people might say to me, I want to make more money. And I'll say, okay, great. And I'll say, well, my other coach told me I've got to raise my fees. And it didn't work for me. So I think I need a new strategy. I really want some tools. And I'll say, well, there wasn't anything wrong with that strategy. What happened? And then we get to have a conversation around what happened. And nearly every single time, it's something that's going on for them on the inside. Either they don't feel worthy enough. They think somebody's not going to pay it. They think they're going to upset people. They think there's going to be some kind of unwanted reaction to them charging a fee, all that sort of stuff. And so we have to do that inner work in order to get the practice back into alignment so that you can have the abundance that you want. And that's how I overcame my challenges in private practice. And I haven't looked back. I've now got 2 profitable businesses. One's a private practice. I only work in 2 days a week. It's booked out. The other one is I'm a coach for women who are wanting to start a private practice or who are perhaps a bit unhappy or dissatisfied or stuck in their private practice at the moment, despite having all of the strategies. The strategies just aren't working. This is who I love working with. If you're a woman in private practice who's got all the stuff or thinks she's got all the tools and the strategies, but is still stuck, and those strategies aren't working, contact me because that's my jam. That's what I really love helping with, because it's not the strategies that's a problem, guys. So I'm going to talk with you about 4 of the most common challenges that we as women can experience in private practice, and this absolutely can apply to the men as well. But the first one is managing expectations, getting clear on what we can and can't do as private practice owners and directors. The next one is managing energy. Now, this might sound a little bit woo-woo for some of you, especially if it's your first time meeting me. But for those of you who've been following me for a little while, you'll understand that I do integrate spirituality, soul goals, and things like that. Instead of becoming lighter, work can feel heavier when our energy is off. The third thing is managing imposter syndrome. This is huge for women. And of course, there's an abundance of research that you can check through Ovid and things like that, through your university, that show that more often than not, it tends to be women that experience imposter syndrome over men. So of course, this refers to things like feelings of our own inadequacy, comparing ourselves to other private practice owners, having self-doubt, worry, sleepless nights, all that sort of stuff. And then, of course, is managing balance. This can be such a huge challenge because I think as women, maybe you're a mum, a wife, a partner, whatever, but certainly trying to manage things like your time, money, and working in the practice versus working on the practice is such a challenge as well. And then, of course, managing your family commitments. So let's just quickly touch on each of those for you. So managing your expectations, thinking about what do or did you expect that owning a private practice would be like? And this could be really great journal prompts as well. If you would like copies of the slides, let me know and I'll send them through to you so that you can use these for journal prompts. What were the thoughts, beliefs, and feelings that would come up for you when you were dreaming about running your private practice? I know for me, I used to dream about having less client time, more time to study. I love learning, so it was really important to me. And I wanted to be able to travel. I really loved traveling because I loved, ever since I was little, I had oracle cards and rune stones and I Ching and, affirmation writing decks and all of this sort of stuff. And I was very interested in other cultures. I wanted to learn what it was like in other cultures. What did they believe? How did they heal themselves? What were their approaches to depression and anxiety? What were their approaches to business? I wanted to understand all of that. And so travel was really key for me as a driver for wanting me to have a private practice. I wanted to be able to use a private practice as a vehicle to fund trips overseas where I could go and learn more. And then I could come back a better, whatever that meant, but a more informed, perhaps, psychologist or a more informed counselor, so that my clients could expand more, so that my clients could get better outcomes, deeper outcomes, more durable change. That was my big drive. But what was yours? And then asking yourself, how is reality now matching up to your expectations? Because sometimes what happens is we have this dream of what we want the practice to look like. And then we go and we implement that dream. And next thing you know, we're getting caught up in the day-to-day and we're spending less time being intentional with the practice and more time reacting to the things that are sort of popping up throughout the day. And then think about, how are your expectations impacting on how you think, feel, and behave, both in the practice and personally, okay? How are your expectations about running a practice impacting on how you think, feel, and behave? So are you at a place where I was 3 years ago, when I was thinking, oh, I don't know if this feels right for me anymore. I don't know if this feels good for me anymore, but I don't know what I can do. Are you at that stage where something's feeling a little bit not right, but you're not sure what you can do? Are you thinking that you would like to expand the services that you offer? Maybe you want to take the practice online, but you're not quite sure how to do that. Maybe there's some fear around it. Like, have a think about your expectations and have a think about how they're affecting you personally as well. Like, if your expectations for private practice aren't matching up to your reality, how are you interpreting that as a woman? Are you taking it personally and doubting your ability to run a practice? Are you questioning your decision to run a practice? Like, what's going on? Are you up at night worrying about making money? Are you not looking after your superannuation? Are you not putting money aside so that you can take a sick day or a mental health day if you need to? Or are you in a position in the practice where if you're not working, you're not generating income, therefore you can never take time off? Because I was in that space too. Years ago, I was in that space, but I didn't have anyone to teach me what I needed to change in order to be able to look after the money better and create opportunities for myself to take paid leave, right? That's just one example, but have a think for yourself. The expectations is a huge one. The next one is your energy. Right? Now, this is something that we don't really talk about, because I think sometimes we confuse being a private practice owner with being a practitioner. And when we get into practitioner mindset, a lot of the time we're thinking, oh, this all needs to be evidence-based, and where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? But you're coming here as a private practice owner, not as a practitioner. So I'm saying that so that you can feel more comfortable and safe listening to what I'm about to tell you, especially if you're new to this kind of stuff. But guys, very quickly, like everything in the world is energy, as you probably already know. Okay, everything's energy. We're all made up of atoms and protons and neutrons and electrons and particles, and all of that stuff is spinning. And, you know, a particle is just like this little tiny dot that sits inside an atom, but within the atom, it's 99.9999999% space. So even things that look solid, like, you know, my crystal here, and like my amethyst star, even though they look solid, they're not. Even though you and I look solid, we're not. We're a bunch of atoms spinning all of the time. And we communicate and we get information. We send and receive information to the world around us through these invisible waves of energy. Okay. And your energy is infinite. It's absolutely infinite, despite what your experience might be. Your energy is infinite, especially when you understand this and you know how to cultivate it, which of course I'm going to teach you how to do. There are some beliefs around energy. And so there's this idea that we've got a physical body. Now, obviously, we all know that we do. And your physical body can absolutely feel tired. Absolutely, it can. You're going to feel, you know, like you're hunching over at the end of the day, or you're sagging at the end of the day, or you're dragging your feet to the car when you leave the practice at the end of the day, or you slump down into the chair in front of Netflix when you get home. You know, there's certainly physical manifestations of low or depleted energy. But we also have something that's called a mental body, and that's just a term that means, you know, like our mental energy. And you know what that's like? It's like, you know, you feel sort of that brain fog, that brain fatigue. It's like, you know, after a long day at the practice, you have to stop off on your way home and you have to get some ingredients to make the dinner. And you know in your head what you need to get, and then you actually get to the supermarket and you go blank. You know what I mean? It's just stuff like that, or forgetting where you put your phone, leaving your diary at the practice when you wanted to take it home, those sorts of things. So it's like this mental fatigue as well. Then we have what's called the emotional body, or the emotional energy, that emotional space that we occupy. And, you know, that can just feel like emotional fatigue. Like, I don't know, but it's like sometimes symptoms of early burnout might feel like, you know, resentment, or feeling like you just can't sit through another client's story, or like you're starting to predict what the next client is going to say, or maybe, you know, you become aware that your mind starts to wander, and so you have to consciously bring it back in a session. You know, maybe you're starting to feel low, flat, anxious, tired, tired but not being able to sleep. All those sorts of things are around that, what we will call the emotional body. And then we have that spiritual body. And, you know, some of you may already be connecting into this, and it might be a new concept for others of you. But really, spirituality is not religious. It's about a connection within yourself. And I guess in a way, you could already say that some approaches to psychology have spiritual elements, especially in positive psychology, you know, transpersonal psychology, things like that. But this idea of being able to connect in with yourself, look inwards for answers, look inwards for guidance. As women too, it's around tapping into your intuition. And learning how to do that. And I think as women, and I'm going to make a big generalization here again, I know it's different for everybody, but I think somewhere along the way, we got conditioned to think that we had to show up in a certain way in order to be successful in our practice. I know for myself, I thought I had to wear a suit, have a briefcase. I thought I had to be very professional. I had to see a lot of clients in the day. I had to be very busy. Do you know what I mean? Like, I took on all of these, what you could call, if you think about archetypes, quite masculine qualities. And I wasn't soft in my practice at all. I was very guarded, planning, doing, very action oriented, all of that sort of stuff. I didn't really do things like set up a time for myself before work where I could connect in with myself and set an intention. Like, nobody ever mentioned intention setting to me. Nobody mentioned journaling as a practice owner to me. Nobody mentioned experimenting with different things like using an oracle deck or using a crystal or doing a 5-minute meditation or earthing my feet by, taking my shoes off and just letting my feet sit on the grass. Like, no one ever mentioned any of that. But these are the things that are going to help you reclaim some of that feminine energy, because if you're just stuck in that masculine energy of doing, pushing, striving, achieving, all of that sort of stuff, you're not operating in balance. You're not creating imbalance. There has to be balance between the masculine and the feminine energy. The masculine energy is all about the doing. The feminine is about who you're being. The feminine is about receiving. The feminine is about being creative. The feminine is about expressing herself through all types of beautiful things, music, dance, writing, all of that sort of stuff. It takes balance and harmonization of masculine and feminine energy in order to cultivate success in your practice. But somewhere along the way, a lot of us think we've got to be dominant in our masculine, and that's not true. And there are absolutely safe ways for you to create more of the type of practice that you want by allowing yourself to step back a little bit from the masculine, step into the feminine. And this is something that I help women in private practice with all the time, and they get these really big results from it. It's beautiful. You need to also have an understanding of where your energy is leaking. And this could be a really great journal prompt as well. Ask yourself, where am I leaking energy? Any of this energy, physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. What are you doing that's taking energy away from you and not topping you back up? That's a really great place to start raising your awareness around this stuff, and raise your awareness too of what are you actually doing now that helps you rejuvenate and replenish your energy. As women, a lot of the time we put, especially as healing women, we want to give a lot of our self, a lot of our care, a lot of our kindness, compassion, generosity. We give all of that out to the world, whether it's clients, family, friends, our team that we're supporting, supervisees that we're mentoring, clients that we're working with in a coaching capacity, friends, all of that sort of stuff. We're constantly giving. And I think the problem can come sometimes when we either, physically, mentally, emotionally, we're drained and we just don't have it in us to look after ourselves and top ourselves up. We use sleep for that, but we're probably not getting the type of sleep that we really need, because perhaps we're going to sleep thinking about the next day. We wake up thinking about the day ahead. We wake up in the night, 3 a.m. is a witching hour, isn't it? We wake up then and we toss and turn for an hour or so, thinking again about the day. So we're not getting the type of replenishment and rejuvenation that we need, not only as private practice owners, but as women, to be able to continue to give, right? And then, of course, there's imposter syndrome. And I don't know about you, but I think this is really common, and I think it's not explored enough in private practice. And my view on that is, I think a lot of the time when we're healers and we're women in private practice and we're doing all of the things and we're doing all of the giving, I think there's a little bit of fear around, I don't want to talk about imposter syndrome because I don't want to look like I'm not competent. I don't want to be judged by other private practice owners or other therapists or colleagues. And so we tend to suffer in silence at home, and we jump on Google and we look at things around, our worth and our self-esteem. And so we rely on all of that. But imposter syndrome is real, and it's something that, I think if you honestly surveyed all private practice owners and they answered you honestly, I believe that 99% of them would say that they've experienced elements of imposter syndrome along the way, because it's a sign that you are aware that there's more going on that you don't know. It's a sign that you're aware that you don't know everything. And I don't think imposter syndrome is bad. I think it's got a bad name, but I don't think it's bad. I think it's a sign that you're very aware that there's more to learn, that there's more to know. I think the danger comes when you consider yourself to be an expert, right? It's like the Dunning-Kruger effect. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but the Dunning-Kruger effect is when people that have a little bit of information tend to call themselves authorities and behave as authorities and speak with authority. And then you look at them and you're like, okay, how did this happen? Like, she's out there on social media and she's got all these people following her and she's speaking with authority, but she doesn't have the same experience or qualifications or whatever it is that you do or that I do. And we think, what's going on here? That's Dunning-Kruger. You know, imposter syndrome is the opposite. Imposter syndrome is when you do have all the experience and you do have the credentials to back you up, but you're afraid to speak out in case you get heckled, in case somebody says that they know more than you, in case somebody disagrees or has a different opinion. You ask yourself, am I good enough? Do I really know enough? What if someone out there knows more than me? I'll never be good enough. What if someone laughs at me or heckles me? What if I make a fool of myself? And I would just say, you know, and I've got a training on this that's free if you want to grab a hold of it on imposter syndrome. But my big thing is you are the expert in yourself, in your experiences, in your learning, in your understanding. And I think when you get caught up in your head, that's like being stuck in the masculine energy there, because it's very left brain, logical, decision-making, planning, protective, defending, all of that sort of stuff. But I think when you're in that masculine space, you're making it about you instead of making it about the audience, instead of making it about your clients. And so what I would encourage you to do is think about dropping back down into your heart space, back into that feminine energy, and come at it from love, and put the focus back onto your audience. Anyway, as I said, I've got training on imposter syndrome. If you're interested, I'm happy to share it with you. And then balance, this is another area. So understand is going to really help you manage your energy, but it's going to result in all of these up levels happening in your private practice. So we need to understand, you know, balance energetically, and that touches on what we mentioned before about physical balance. So what would, if you're running your private practice in your ideal way, right? No limitations, just like allow yourself to think about, in an ideal world, how would you like to be running it? What would physical balance look like for you? What would emotional balance look like for you? What would that mental or cognitive balance look like for you? What would spiritual balance look like for you in private practice? And what does it look like for you now as you're out of balance with some of those things, right? You're probably not doing things at the moment in your private practice to balance that physical energy, the emotional energy, the mental energy, and the spiritual energy. Maybe you do things like you get out and go for a walk at lunchtime. That's amazing. But what else could you be doing, and where is the balance, and how can you find out for yourself whether you're in or out of balance with that? All right. These are some journal prompts that you can start to use to expand your awareness, because change is going to come from awareness. So of course there's a solution, okay? And the solution absolutely does, you know, at a minimum 3 things. But the first thing that it does is it actually generates flow. It generates referrals. It generates bookings. It promotes retention, which is great, because then that in turn promotes increased lifetime value of a client. It promotes your income and turnover, and it generates more opportunities for you with your private practice. There are measurable improvements that come about as a result of this solution. And that's things like, you know, measuring your annual turnover, measuring your number of bookings, measuring your number of referrals, and of course, measuring impact. So you want to have all of your KPIs there so that you can measure for yourself the positive gains that come about as a result of this solution. And of course, this solution has helped others. So people that I've worked with in the past and working with now, they have more time. they have more income coming in through to the practice. You know, a client said to me a couple of weeks ago, she had her biggest year ever in her private practice, and she couldn't believe it because she'd actually dropped work from 5 days a week down to 2, and instead of seeing 8 clients a day, she dropped down to 4. So this was like really, really big, you know. And with that, a time abundance as well, other people have been able to drop down from 5 days to 3 and still make the same money, but they've got more time now to go to yoga and Pilates and be with their family and be really present, able to take leave. Yeah, that's another one. People that are women that I work with are now really excited because they're able to do things like take a break from the practice and not have to worry about the money because the money continues to come in. And I'm going to talk with you about what the solution is in tomorrow's video. So keep an eye out for that because it's going to be really powerful stuff, and I want to give it to you so that, as I said before, you can have some wins in your private practice as well. So next time I'm going to talk with you about like the solution or the secret that I believe is going to be the key to creating success in your private practice. I'm going to help you with it so that you can get those wins. This information completely turned my practice around. It went from struggling to thriving in just a matter of months. You can do the same, and it continues to generate abundance in my businesses, and I just can't wait to share it with you. I want to thank you so much for your time today, and I will look forward to seeing you in tomorrow's video. If you would like a copy of the slides, email me. My email is hello@brooklynstorme.com. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.